Gentlemen, today we are dealing with the one factor that will decide whether you pass and, more importantly, finish in the merit. That is answering technique. What is answering technique? It is the skill of matching your response to the examiner's directive word, whether it says list, explain, analyze, evaluate, or discuss. Why does it matter? Because in staff college exam, let's say you have 20 questions, 500 marks, and just 180 minutes. That gives you about 9 minutes per question. But each question would demand different span of time. If you overshoot time on one, you will underserve the next. Passing needs 200 marks in each subject, but to be in merit, you must score well to compensate for papers where you may falter. You cannot afford wastage. How do you succeed? By giving the examiner exactly what he wants in the form he expects within the time allowed. Nothing more, nothing less. Today's session will show you what each operative word demands, how deep you must go, and how to manage your time to maximize marks. Though covers an example from military history, this would be applicable to all your exams, be it tactics, be it TACE, administration, current affairs, and so on. Let's begin. The first type of question which may be asked is list. In this, only state the points, no explanation is required. The examiner wants to test your recall and breadth only. An example is given on the slide, wherein you've been asked list the factor that enabled India to retain control of Srinagar in October-November 1940. You can quickly say rapid accession and legal cover, airlift of one Sikh, defense of airfield, defense of airfield, delay caused by tribal looting at Baramulla, air and RT, support Indian counteroffensive on 7th November. Primarily, you don't have to explain, just write clean headings. Second type of question which you may be asked is to enumerate. In this, in addition to listing, you also must give a short explanation. The examiner wants you to recall and also give a compressed cause effect. The examiner's intention is to check your recall and compressed cause effect manner. For example, enumerate the reason why Srinagar did not fall to Pakistan in October-November 1947. Pay attention, primarily it is the same question wherein the examiner earlier had asked you to list. Now he wants you to enumerate. So you have to recall and also give cause if one line effect. So first you have to recall and then you have to give cause and one line effect. Earlier we just said accession was signed. Now you are giving the effect. It enabled legal intervention by India. In list you had said airlift of one Sikh. Now the effect was that immediate boots on ground at Srinagar airfield. Baramulla looting, delay gave India time. Indian Air Force support disrupted Lashkars. Shalatang broke enemy momentum. So each point should have one sentence. Now comes explain. Explain how the Battle of Shalatang transformed the Kashmir campaign. In this, you bring out cause and effect. Examiner wants to check your logical flow, not just heading. So in this question, you will say that first organized counter-offensive using air, artillery and infantry. Shalaton was the first organized counter-offensive using air, artillery and infantry. It cleared Srinagar, Baramulla road. Hence, supplies were ensured. It secured Valley permanently, shifted Indian posture from survival to initiative. It was a huge psychological blow to Pakistan and a morale booster in Delhi. So, in a nutshell, this question should be covered in three paras, wherein you should set the context, give what all actions were undertaken, and what were the impact of each action that was displayed. The next could be discuss. Whenever you are asked to discuss, you have to bring out the story from both sides. For example, discuss the role of Battle of Shalaton in shaping the outcome of the 1947-48 Kashmir War. The examiner wants you to carry out a balanced appreciation of what went on during Operation Balatan. So you have to discuss the role of Shalaton in overall outcome of 1947-48 war. For giving argument in favor, you can say that Valley was secured, accession was irreversible. You can also say, while we concentrated at Shalaton, Skardu was lost and Punch was under siege, and you can also discuss a little bit about ceasefire politics. You may conclude by saying that turning point for Valley, but not sole determinant of war. You should have two distinct para, each for favor and against, with one para verdict, that what do you think, whom do you think gained more than the other party. You may have a question saying that justify calling the Battle of Shalaton the turning point of the Kashmir campaign. Here, the examiner wants you to support the statement with evidence. His intention is to defend the proposition strongly. So, unlike discuss, where you are giving points for and against, here perforce you have to support the proposition that has already been stated by the examiner. There is no balancing that is required in this question. Examiner wants confidence. Now comes analysis. Analyze the factors that led to India's success at Shalaton and their consequences. Now, in this question, you break it into parts and then examine. First of all, identify factors and then look for consequence of each factor. Analyze why India succeeded. Enemy weaknesses. Write down about India's strengths, firepower applications, leadership of Brigadier L.P. Singh, and now having discussed this, come on to the consequences. Like Srinagar secure, enemy routed, initiative regained, and also make a statement about strategic link. By making Valley safe, allowed focus on Uri, Naushera and Punch. You may use headings like causes, actions and consequences while organizing your thoughts. Evaluate. Whenever a question comes on evaluate, you are expected to weigh once again pros and cons, and then in this case you have to give your verdict. Examiner wants to check your judgment with balance. You may have a question. Evaluate whether the Battle of Shalatung was the decisive event of the 1947-48 Kashmir War. While giving pros, you can once again state secured valley, capital, airfield, broke tribal threat, morale turning point. Against did not resolve Puj siege or save Skardu. Zozila equally vital for Ladakh. Verdict could be decisive for Valley, but war had multiple decisive notes. Sheraton was a turning point, not the only one. Elucidate. When you are asked to elucidate a particular aspect, you have to clarify the concept and also give an example. The example should be very relevant. Elucidate how irregular warfare shaped the Battle of Sharata. Tribal Lashkar's lack of discipline slowed advance. Poor command unity meant predictable concentrations. Against them, an army could apply artillery and air power decisively. Thus, irregular tactics created both the opportunity and vulnerability that Indian Army exploited at Sharata. Differentiate. In differentiate, you have to show contrast clearly. The examiner wants you to carry out a sharp contrast, not narrative. Differentiate between Indian defensive posture before Shalatung and offensive posture after the battle. Before Shalatung, holding airfield, delaying actions, tactical survival can be quoted. After Shalatung, Valley was secured, capacity for counter-offensive in Uri and beyond was available. The significance was psychological as well as operational shift from reactive to proactive. Illustrate. Whenever you are asked to illustrate with examples, you have to prove with examples. You have to prove with giving examples. The examiner wants evidence through cases. In case of Shalatung, illustrate with example why the battle is considered a turning point in the Kashmir campaign. Once again, you can give Valley permanently secured, airfield never threatened again, Indian Army went on to recapture Uri and hold Uri Bowl, proved effective use of combined arm post partition. Illustrate how tactical victory can reshape campaign trajectory. Here you can give specific facts to substantiate the examples that you have quoted. I would suggest you should include minimum 3 examples. You may also be asked to bring out the significance, like bring out the significance of the Battle of Shalatung in the political context of Kashmir succession. Here, you are expected to bring out the impact and why it mattered. The examiner wants you to highlight the consequences beyond tactical level. Once again, militarily, it secured Valley. Politically, it demonstrated India could defend accession. Diplomatically, it strengthened India's hand as dispute went to UN and boosted national confidence in divided post-partition environment. So, as a guide, while covering tactical situation, bring out its impact on overall operational and at strategic political level, if any. Consideration for a decision. Here, the examiner wants you to think like a commander. He is looking at decision-making logic under pressure. Bring out the considerations behind India's decision to launch a counter-offensive at Sheraton in November 1947. Enemy was massing near Srinagar and threatening airfield. Delay at Baramulla. Political need to secure capital quickly. Indian Air Force and artillery was now available. So there was no point in waiting longer because it risked collapse of Srinagar. Preempt enemy thrust with deliberate counterattack. Now bring out the most important part of use of armor in this particular operation for the first time. Gentlemen, you know that every directive word is a signal. List means heading only. Enumerate means add one line. Explain means show cause and effect. Discuss means balance. Analyze means break. Analyze means explain means show cause and effect. Discuss means balance. Analyze means break into parts. Evaluate means judge. Justify means defend. Elucidate means clarify. Differentiate means contrast. Illustrate means prove with examples. Significance means impact. And consideration means commander's logic. The exam is a test of discipline, not storytelling. 20 questions, 500 marks, 180 minutes. Each answer is a timed strike. Precision brings marks. Precision brings mark. Precision brings marks. Structure brings clarity, and time control brings merit. When you sit in the hall, do not write what you know. Write what the examiner wants. Practice these techniques until they become instinct. If you do, you will not just clear the paper. You will place yourself in the top bracket where staff college selections are made. With this, I come to the end of today's episode. You're requested to please like, share, and comment. Keep working hard. Jai Hind.